Hello, how are you? My name is Tex. I'm laughing because I just went through three stages of heated upsetness. We'll put it like that, trying to figure out how just to record a dang thing on Zoom. I am not technologically savvy. I'll just say that from the get-go. So I must really care about getting this video out to be able to sit there and go through all that aggravating crap. So anyway, speaking of which, that ties in to what I wanted to talk about today, which was putting up with aggravating crap along with being able to communicate. So today's video is a combination of several skills that we've been talking about, DBT skills, and putting them all together. So my explanation is when you use DBT skills, and if you've gone through DBT skills training stuff with, you either a group or your individual therapist, or you're going through the books on your own, the idea with these individual skills is not they're each separate and their own little boat sailing off in their own little direction. You bring them all together in order to accomplish goals. In other words, if you look at DBT skills, one of them is mindfulness, and you need that. And you also then need frustration tolerance, and then you need emotional regulation. And then you also need that interpersonal part, that communication skills, that, being able to talk and get other people to listen to you and to listen to other people. It's got to be a two-way street. It's not just about you getting other people to listen to you, but it's about people, you listening to people. And the whole thing is on the premise that when you're talking to people, you're observing yourself, observing them, thinking about what they're thinking, coming back towards you. That takes mindfulness. You have to be able to observe your own self while you're doing it. The reason why this is coming up right now is because I want to describe a situation that happened to me this week when dealing with a client. We were at a meeting. It was a progress meeting about how the person was doing on their treatment goals. I made an observation, and sometimes I don't make the nicest of observations. I call it like I see it. I will be the first one to tell you, I have been nicknamed sometimes the not nice therapist because I don't sit there and fluff things up and make them pretty. I try to make them palatable, but at the same time, I have to give you the truth. If I don't let you know what's going on and give you an honest assessment of things, it's difficult for you then to make the changes that you need to make to get the goals that you said you wanted to begin with. In this particular situation, the individual was shutting down during groups. They were not really participating. They were staring at the table. They were doing artwork and things like that. And I know they weren't listening in the sense that even if they were listening, they weren't following instructions, because it would be, I don't like to give a lot of handouts. I like you to draw what I put on the board. That way I can observe and see that you're doing what everyone else is doing. If I give you the handout, then you're like, yeah, whatever, and put it in your folder. But if you have to draw the stuff, then you start to remember it. And it's just like when you're going to school, when you're going to college, when you're at a meeting, if you write stuff down, that makes a part of your brain activate, and I know you're getting the material. Then at the end of a group, I will give each person a chance. Well, what did you get out of the group? What did you find? What happened? And then as a wrap up later on, I'll come back and ask you again. So how are things going? What concepts are you having problems with? What things are you grasping and understanding well? Where are you using the materials? Because if you're coming to a group or to an individual session and you're just there to be there, you're just occupying a space, you're not going to make progress towards your goals. And the goals are the goals you set up. I don't set up the goals. I don't tell you what to do. I ask you, what do you want? Okay, let's see how we can get there. And this is how I can help you get there. So back to this individual, I had, just said it's not happening. You kind of don't seem connected. You don't seem to be, participating. And the person went from very little or no emotion to absolute rage within seconds. And there was no in between. Now, if you notice, several things happened there. One, is if you were using DBT skills, you would see yourself getting angry or feel it or hear it in your own head. You would be mindful of what you're feeling and doing. Then if you were using frustration tolerance skills, you would be able to try to put a little bit of a lid on your emotions and hold them down just a little bit. Regulating your emotions so that they're not up and down all the time. You're kind of keeping things at a level even keel. That way you have a chance to talk and ask questions, to be able to voice your disagreement. Part of assertive communication is not just telling people what you want. It's being able to ask questions and get information and find out what's going on. And then maybe you and that person together reach a compromise on what y'all agree happened or what you see or what you observe or how things are going. Now, when you say, I feel, can't argue with feelings. I can argue with behaviors, though. I can tell you, well, you may feel this way. I get that. That's not what I was observing in behaviors. These are the behaviors I observed. And then it becomes a case of my feelings and going, I feel that when I observe these behaviors, I'm beginning to believe that maybe something is not going right. Maybe we're not on the same sheet of music. I noticed, though, that this type of response that I was getting from the client is the kind of response that I see happening in a lot of other places in the world. Some of my other clients with dealings with their friends themselves or individuals, between parents and their kids, between teachers and students, people take what is being said. They take part of this. They see in their own mind what's going on. Then they suddenly lock into this is the only way it has to be. They ask no more information. They don't try to see things coming out and coming back. They literally, and then they don't have the communication skills to say, I'm getting upset. I'm getting frustrated. I feel this way. I don't understand. It goes straight from this disagreement to I hate you. And as happened in this meeting, it went straight to me being called several names. Some of them begin with F and some of them begin with A, and you can put it together and figure out what was going on here. I was labeled that kind of person. And then it was everything is stupid and everything is wrong. And it was just like, and I'm thinking to myself, my goodness, if this is happening in a calm room like my office, where you have an opportunity to express yourself and ask questions without me interrupting you, without me shutting you down, and you have an opportunity to express yourself, where is this need coming from, or this ideal, this behavior of going all the way to the end from 0 to 90 in 0.0000009 seconds, just and if this is happening in your outside world, I can see how you might feel frustrated because it feels like no one is listening to you. Well, here's that mindfulness again. If you use the mindfulness, you might pull back and go, wow, the minute somebody gives me any criticism, no matter how constructive, no matter how they package it, if I disagree with them, then my only response is to scream and shout and go to the extreme. And like I said, it struck me because I had several other conversations with different clients who was having this happen in their world, happening between them and their friends, happening between them and their parents, or between them and their coworkers. And I'm like, wow, this is an interesting thing. It really needs to be touched on. Things should be in proportion. That's the whole idea behind being able to observe what you're doing, to look at it from a non-judgmental stance for a moment and go, is this appropriate? I know in one of my other videos, I talk about this borderline rage, but it's not just a borderline rage. It is a rage that a lot of people are feeling now, unable to contain themselves and act proportionately. In other words, if somebody disagrees with you, instead of asking questions, going into an anger phase. And if you don't get the response you want or the information you want or the way the other person doesn't agree, instead of in proportion being able to say, well, I disagree and this is not, or even getting a little upset. I understand. If somebody says something you don't like, it irritates you. I get it. I just don't get going all the way to the max end and screaming and hollering and calling names. It's almost like the road rage thing, when you're driving down the road and you pass somebody and they don't like the fact that you passed them. So they drive up beside you and they scream and they holler and they threaten you and they get in front of you and they slam on the brakes. And you're thinking, this isn't nowhere in proportion to the incident. If they're mad at me, they're mad at me, but is it worth killing me? Is it worth making us wreck our cars? Is it worth threatening? Is it worth going off the deep end? Is it worth all this stuff? So thinking this through, and this is where I can actually say that now the skills have to come in. You need all of the skills. You need to mix them. As I said, it's like a recipe. The recipe may be broken up into what you do before you put something in the oven, what's going on while it's in the oven, and what you need to do with it when it comes out of the oven. If you don't put them all together, though, you can't bake the cake. You can't cook the dinner. You have to put all these skills together. So now you can start to see why it's important, so important to have that mindfulness skill, to be able to observe what's going on, to be able to pull back and take a non-judgmental stance and actually look at things, to realize you don't have all the information, and to keep yourself calm, to regulate emotions, to have some tolerance for frustration, things that are upsetting you, so that you can keep that rational part of your brain working, so that then you can go in and actually ask questions and find out, did we misunderstand each other? Or maybe what the other person observed is they're honest. I mean, you ask for advice, you ask for an observation. When they give it, when you lose it, it's like, wait a minute, you ask, and now you don't want to hear what the person has to say. It almost makes you wonder, was it better to just sit down with a piece of paper and write somebody, I'm going to tell you what to answer me. This is the answers that I want. This is how I want you to speak when you do it. Okay, now hold that and get ready to read it. Okay, now I want your advice. Read the sheet, please. Because if they give you anything that's not scripted, going into a defensive posture, trying to argue, and well, no, you're seeing it wrong, or no, this isn't right, or it's like, again, that's where those interpersonal skills come into play, of being able to ask, clarify, being able to compromise, being able to say, okay, I can understand how this is, one point of view, and I have this point of view. Where can we meet on common ground? Or going, wow, I never thought about it from that point of view, and I never seen myself in that light. Let me go work on that and see what we can do so that I can make the situation better. Sometimes the other person is going to be doing things that will make the conversation difficult. I do challenge you, though, is that always going to be the case? Even asking yourself, see, again, back to mindfulness, asking yourself, was I already mad at that person before they spoke? If this would have been someone that I liked saying the same thing, would I have been so upset? Because if you really didn't like the person to begin with, then anything that person says is going to upset you, and it's kind of a doomed conversation to begin with. On the flip side, if you like them and then you just accept what they say, well, that's not going to get you further ahead either. Or if the person just agrees with what you want, you reject anything that doesn't agree with you, you're not going to change anything. And this is all about change. You change your world by changing yourself and your perspective. And there's nothing wrong with that change. I hear a lot of people say, that you're perfect the way you are and you shouldn't change. That's complicated. I would go the other route. I would say, you're damn good. Perfect? That's a little hard one to swallow. You're great. You're lovable. There's good things in you. All those things I can go for. The thing is, though, is to say you're perfect is a little complicated, because if you're perfect, since everything does change and nothing can stay the same, then you were perfect for that 1 second in time 5 minutes ago. You have to change, though. Nothing stays the same. Change is inevitable, which is a whole another talk I need to get into one day. But just to give you the idea of it, is everything grows, changes. As we accumulate more information, our thought patterns change. As we ourselves grow, we physically change, but we also mentally change, and we emotionally change. With that being said, always thinking and getting feedback and seeing where you're going, what's going on, and how can I make things better in my world. If you really, really want things to change for the better, then the idea is realizing they will change. Don't you want to steer that change where you want it instead of letting it steer you where it wants you? Another good reason to use all these skills. So again, to wrap up, take that in mind. Look at things when someone's talking to you and you're asking for feedback, being able to hold back and calmly breathe in, listen to what's being said, think through it and process it, delve into the idea and reflect and go, is this true? Is this not true? Does this pertain to me? Does it not pertain to me? And then being able to take that process one step further and asking the person, okay, now where to from here? Or, if I disagree, I disagree. Question, when you start to feel yourself, your anger building, or even your sadness building, and you start to feel frustrated or sad or anxious or worried, being able to contain that a little bit and ask yourself, where is it coming from? And what can I do to change it? I hope that helps you. I hope tying into some of my personal experiences through the week helps you also understand. And I hope, sincerely hope, that you practice the skills. You take what you're given and you make it better, and you make yourself better, and you make your world better. Because that's all we need to do, is be better. The whole goal is to be better than we was yesterday. And I know you can do that. You take care and have a great Sunday, okay? Bye-bye.